Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to extend a special offer. I'm holding a live zodiac inspired planning workshop on January 12th of 2025. You can register on my website at electraastrology.com. If you want to come and get clarity on what to focus on in January, February, and March, join me. We're going to go through the psychology, the spirituality, and of course, the astrology of the first 3 months of the year. Season by season, vision workshop, electraastrology.com. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week. I'm Natha Perkins of Electra Astrology. We're continuing our work on Pallas Athene, and we have gone through 3 different facets of Pallas Athene. If you've missed those, go ahead and listen to those. This is an archetype that a lot of astrologers don't talk about much, but I like to use her in all of my charts because it gives us a nice layer of extra information. And I think that the themes that Pallas Athene bring up for us and help us to navigate are really important themes. And really, the biggest theme is strategy, learning how to get our needs met, not by going to battle and not by demanding and fighting for it, but by being really strategic and really intelligent about it. And let's face it, we're in a time in history where it is difficult to trust the people that are making the decisions. And there is so much extra information. We are flooded with information. It's really hard to know what is right, what is accurate, what is the truth. And we could argue that a lot of that is intentional to be distracting. But we have our inner Pallas Athene, and that is where we have the gifts of being able to hone in. We each have a different Pallas Athene sign in our charts, and Pallas Athene lands in a different house in our chart. And those will give us really good indications of where our specific strategic skill sets are and how to use them. So if you like my style and you're wanting to get a reading, you can book with me at electraastrology.com. We can dive into anything that's happening in your life and give you some insight. Of course, when I am doing astrology readings or teaching astrology, I'm always teaching and reading from the perspective of the psychology and the spiritual part of astrology. So this isn't just like your basic sun sign, like you're a Virgo. I bring you into a pretty comprehensive library all about you and what is showing up in your chart, because it's more important now than ever to understand yourself and understand your skill sets, your gifts, your shadows. In fact, if you have missed my 2025 video, check that out. I go into some of what you're going to need to know for 2025, and I'm also going to release later this week another 2025 part 2, because this year is going to be a wild year. It's going to be a wild ride, and we need to have our toolbox. We need all of our tools well oiled. We need to know how to use all of them as much as we possibly can so that we can navigate. It's not that the world's going to end, and it's not that we are headed towards nothing but doom and gloom, but we are going to have to use our minds in ways that we weren't necessarily taught. And so that brings me into what we're talking about today with Pallas Athene, which is strategy. Now, I want you to just think about a situation in your life where you got through it, or you climbed to the top, or you managed it because you were really smart about it. And I want you to just take a deep breath into your body, into your nervous system. And if possible, put your feet on the floor and square your shoulders as you're taking a few deep breaths. Because this archetype leads us straight into our internal warrior, the really intelligent warrior within us. The one that says, I can figure this out. And not only can I figure this out, but I'm going to have some fun with it. No, Pallas Athene had a lot of fun. She got really good at sparring. She was good at messing with her brothers who were stronger than her and better with their weaponry than she was, but she was smart. And so this is a fun archetype to play with because we get to really acknowledge how intelligent we are and how we can have some fun playing the game, where it's this game of like ducking and dodging and like thinking things through, pondering, pulling on the knowledge that you already got from the last time you had a similar situation. Like this is that part of us that has a lot of fun with the game. So as you're sitting here and your shoulders are squared and your feet are on the ground and you're breathing into your chest and you're remembering the last time that you had a situation where you literally outwitted people. So it reminds me of that show, if any of you used to watch it, called Survivor. And in fact, there's a lot of different game shows at this point where the smartest person ends up winning the game. And it's because they're willing to take risks. They are good at a number of things. And with Pallas Athena, we get good at a lot of things. We get good at schmoozing, at talking to the right people. We're scanning the environment and saying, well, who's the power player here? And who do I need to be in order to get in with the power player? And how can I outwit the power player? Like, how can I become the player with the most power? And so we're doing this ideally in our lives, although I would say that a lot of people don't even play this game very well because we get weighed down by things like wanting to be nice, wanting to be polite, feeling like I'm just not even going to go for it because I know that I'm not as strong as them. And remember, we talked in the last episode about getting your foot in the door if you were a female in a male-dominated career, or you were the only female in a house full of boys, or you really wanted to get your father's attention, but you definitely weren't going to do it with more traditionally girly things like makeup. It had to be like you were willing to go help fix the car. We talked about how in our lives we have been faced in these different situations where we had to like figure it out. Like, ooh, I want this thing. I can feel my inner critic holding me back. I can feel my lack of strength holding me back. I can feel my conditioning holding me back. All of those voices that say you can't, not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. Pallas Athena is where we learn to overcome those voices, where we transcend them because it's actually fun. It's like fun to outwit. It's fun to like get in there and figure out, like, how am I going to make this bouncer believe that this fake ID is real? How am I going to talk my way out of this speeding ticket? How am I going to get my kids to agree to eat this broccoli? How am I going to get this guy's number? We have all of this power that is within us that I think that a lot of times has gotten tamped down, especially if we're looking at Pallas Athena as a more feminine concept, which we are. Like I've said in the previous episodes, men also have Pallas Athena in their charts. So it's not just gender specific. But I think that a lot of times women, just because of the nature of the world and the nature of culture, women get told so often that they can't do something, or we know that we're not actually physically strong enough to do something, or we don't want to seem too unappealing, right? Like we get our Venus energy mixed in there and it's like Venus wants to be attractive. And is it attractive to sit there and look pretty in a tank top? Yes. Is it attractive to go like racing after a football and trying to catch it? I mean, not as attractive. I'm just talking about our conditioning and the ways that we've been conditioned to not be strong. So you can think about that as we are wrapping up with Pallas Athena. And by the way, next week we're going to start the asteroid Vesta. And let me tell you, Vesta is a very interesting archetype in our charts. Very. So you don't want to miss those. But as we are finishing up our teachings on Pallas Athena, and we're really looking at this concept of getting my needs met by being really smart and by playing the game, learning how to convince people, learning how to use the psychology, the relationship to your higher power, your source connection, and also connecting with your heart, connecting with your gut. This is where we learn to tune in to all of these different layers of information so that we can get what we need. Now, one other thing about Pallas Athena that I want you to just pay attention to this week, right after you've listened to this talk, I want you to notice how often you're using this particular thing in your day-to-day, and that is pattern recognition. Pallas Athena, we recognize patterns. We notice when something is different, when something is out of alignment, when something has changed. We can notice that somebody's speech has changed. We notice that their habits, routines, and rituals have changed. We notice that there's something that is a little bit different than it used to be. And that can be one of the main skill sets that we can use with Pallas Athena to understand, what do I need to do to get my needs met? If we are watching somebody and we say they always are curious about this, they're always interested in this, they always order this, that's the kind of information that you want to log so that you can use it later. And I'm usually really surprised at how little people use pattern recognition. They are not paying attention. And I think that that's something that we need to look at with Pallas Athena, is your way of paying attention. We have our Mercury way of paying attention, but that tends to be a little busier. Like there's a lot of information that's always coming in and we're responding to it. But with Pallas Athena, if you really want to work it, it's where you are awake and aware. You are watching the habits, the patterns of the people around you, not because you're nosy and not because you're meant to retain every single line item of what everybody's doing, but because if you are on top of pattern recognition, it gives you this superpower. And Pallas Athena is a superpower. We all have Mars. We all have our limitations and our boundaries and our things that we're willing to go to battle about, and our ways of getting angry and being explosive and being irritable and getting our needs met with force. But working with Pallas Athena is where you have the magic wand. You are getting your needs met. You're doing it like we talked about last time. You're doing it and people aren't even noticing. You're getting your needs met. You're greasing the wheels. You are incredibly powerful and it's very subtle. And yet, if you learn how to work it, you can get your needs met almost all the time. You can get exactly what you want if you pay attention and you figure out, when is the door opening? Because when it opens, I'm going to walk through that door. So I put out a series booklet, but I did not put out a Pallas Athena booklet. I want to go through your subtle and yet powerful skills of strategy based on your Pallas Athena sign. This is true if your Pallas Athena is in Aries or the first house, that some of your most potent strategy comes from knowing when to act, knowing when to move into action. If your Pallas Athena is in Taurus or the second house, your skill set is going to be making people comfortable, making people feel that they can trust you and that you are dependable. If your Pallas Athena is in the sign of Gemini or the third house, of course, your skill set, your strategy is going to be in the ability to communicate with people, to connect with them, to make them curious about you. If your Pallas Athena is in the sign of Cancer or the fourth house, your skill set is going to be in making people feel safe with you, making people feel that they can count on you to take care of them. If your Pallas Athena is in Leo or the fifth house, your skill set is going to be in being big and bright and drawing people toward you, getting people to adore you and like you. If your Pallas Athena is in Virgo or the sixth house, your skill set is going to be in helping other people solve their problems. And you see, like when you help someone solve their problem or help somebody feel safe and secure, or you know when to move into action, it's like, oh, that is the grease that is going to make this door open for me. Libra, seventh house, Pallas Athena. This is where you can win people over, similar to Gemini, but this is where you win people over by being flirtatious and being appealing and making people feel like they are something special. If you are a Scorpio or eighth house, Pallas Athena placement, you are so strategic. You're paying maybe some of the closest attention to people and pattern recognition of anybody. And you can use that. You know exactly when to move, you know exactly what buttons to push, and you know when to go. If you are Sagittarius or the ninth house, Pallas Athena, you are wise and you're interesting and you come across as a teacher. You have things to teach people and they want that. They want what you have. If you are Pallas Athena in Capricorn or the 10th house, people respect you. So once you have their respect, then you also garner their trust and they will let you lead. If you have Pallas Athena in Aquarius or the 11th house, you have a gift with knowing how to navigate big groups of people. You are very intelligent and you're unique. You have a captivating way of getting in and doing things in a quirky way that feels different, that feels revolutionary to what people are used to doing, and people like that. And of course, if your Pallas Athena is in Pisces or the 12th house, you are magic. You have the intuition, you have the ability to read all of the different levels of energy and wave that magic wand and make things happen. So know that we all have our own gifts and skills. It's just a matter of remembering and cultivating and getting used to using it. So your homework for this week, if you want to take on homework, is to practice using your strategy. Figure out something that you want. Maybe you're going to have to go in and smile your way through it. Maybe you're going to have to power play and make friends with the most powerful person in the room. Maybe you're going to have to come up with a really clever way to sell something to somebody, even when you know they're not going to want it. How are you going to make your kids eat that broccoli? Work your magic. Play with this. This is a great archetype to master. All right. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you all next week.